Welcome to this episode of Full Frame. My name is Robert Pears. I want to share a little bit about sensors today. And before I go into the two major forms, the APS-c and the full frame, let me just explain there are three different types of sensor out there, which are the CID, the CMOS, and the CCD. The CID is a unique sensor used by the military where every pixel is able to measure and read light. So you can get very accurate images for military and pictures of the stars. They are very, very expensive and as said used typically by the military or for space. Most cameras you're going to buy today are CMOS and some of the video cameras are CCD. CCD measures by taking the image and it measures to the side, so it drains it all to the side. A CMOS measures and it measures line by line, and as a consequence you can get what's referred to as the rolling shutter and some distortions, particularly when you're doing video. They've come a long, long way from where they were years ago. They exist in two forms, either full frame or APS-c, which is a crop frame, and that's what I want to focus on today. I get asked a lot, which camera should I buy? A full frame or an APS-c cropped frame? And it really depends on the situation. For me, doing specialty events, weddings, I personally recommend full frame. Why? Because full frame have larger pixels and are much better in low light situations. They can record more light and less noise, and as a consequence they typically give better low light performance compared to cropped sensors because of that bigger pixel. You can do some math on it, which I'm not going to get into here, and you can do some study on it, but again, typically a full frame camera will give you better performance in low light. APS-c brings some advantages to the table, particularly if you do sports or if you're shooting wildlife. Why? Because if you're using a zoom lens, that crop factor takes that focal length and gives you some extra zoom. What do I mean? Well, let's say you have a 100mm zoom lens on there and you have a APS-c that has a crop factor of 1.6. All of a sudden that 100mm zoom has become 160mm. That's a lot of extra zoom. With the full frame, I take the same 100mm lens, I stick it on the full frame, and I get 100mm. So now with the 160mm with the crop, I'm able to get a lot closer to the wildlife compared to the full frame. Now, on the opposite end, let's say I'm doing a wide angle picture. If it is a 10mm focal length and I stick it on a full frame, I get this ultra wide 10mm focal length. I now stick that 10mm on a cropped APS-c with a 1.6 and it is now 16. Now that may not seem that much, but as you start to go up you start to see the difference. So that on a full frame you really see the benefit on wide angle. On the crop ones you see the benefit on the zoom because you're getting that extra zoom. And if you look at the price of a zoom lens, you'll see why getting that little extra zoom for free is a great, great benefit. So APS-c lenses are great lenses, but are typically sensors are typically found in the lower end cameras. Full frame typically costs more, but I believe they bring a lot extra to the table, particularly when you're doing low light situations. And they give a sharper, cleaner image in my opinion. I encourage you to take a look at both, realize that they have different advantages, and again look at your budget. But if you're going to go into really recording specialty events and you want to get the sharpest, cleanest, lowest noise image, then I would push you towards a full frame. If you're just doing it as a hobby and you want to do wildlife, if you want to do a lot of zoom work, then I would encourage you for the APS-c lens where it just gives you that extra zoom. If you're not worried about the loss and the wide angle and you're just looking for a fun camera, then don't worry about the crop factor, just go for it. Again, the full frame really is for those that want that extra low light sensitivity, the reduced noise, and that slightly better performance. Some of you may disagree. I encourage you to look at some of the math and look at it and look at some reviews of cameras. I personally take a lot of time to look at reviews of cameras, and when I think of low light, I want to see performance at least 6400. Today we even consider 12,800. Typically in a low light situation, as high as I go is 6400, but more and more cameras are really starting to see great performance at 12,800, which is awesome that we can get that. But I would encourage you, when you are looking at performance of a sensor and a camera, and you're going to be facing a challenging low light situation, look at the performance at ISO 6400. That's where you're really going to see. Does it give nice, clean, sharp images? Realize that one of the things you're always going to compromise is resolution versus sensitivity. The more sensitivity I get, the more resolution I lose. So you can get at a ISO 100 a powerful image that has lower sensitivity but incredible resolution, or I can go to ISO 6400 and get great sensitivity but low resolution. If you can get something that gives you an acceptable resolution and sensitivity, you've got a great camera. Well, until next time, keep on shooting. Thank you.